on the topic of being neheneh from Melechet Shabbat, getting enjoyment from the work that somebody did on Shabbat, that a Jewish person did on Shabbat. There's a number of things which is important to keep in mind. We mentioned earlier that one should not leave on a radio or a television on Shabbat. Even though he left it on before Shabbos, he's not allowed to leave it on before Shabbat and listen to it on Shabbat, because it's called Zilzul b'Shabbat Kodesh. It takes away the sanctity of the Shabbat. It's not something you're supposed to be doing on Shabbos. You're not supposed to be listening to radio and watching television. This is not the atmosphere of Shabbat. Chama Yehid discusses, especially if he's talking in Israel, where the radio station and the television is by Jewish people, non-religious, but they're Jewish people. So he says you have to be very, very careful that you're not listening to these things with the Jewish people. You're being neheneh from the work of a Jewish person. It's asur on Shabbat, 100% asur, because this is a isur of being neheneh b'Melechet Shabbat. What if somebody is passing a non-Jewish person's house or store and he has the radio on? So there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, unless you can convince him to keep Shabbat. But are you allowed to even listen to the news or to something that while you're walking by? And the halacha is no, you're not allowed, because you're being neheneh b'Melechet Shabbat. This is a Jewish person who has who's being over on Shabbat, and you're listening on Shabbat from a neheneh b'Melechet Shabbat. You're not allowed to do that. Hamavadia adds that even if it's a goy, even if a goy put it on, you're not allowed to be neheneh from the melacha of the goy that was done for this. You're not allowed to do that. But that's not so simple. That's a different discussion. But anyway, so besides the problem of leaving it on for Shabbat from before Shabbat and listening to it on Shabbat, that's also a problem. But even more than that is if it was done by a Jewish person, like in Israel where Hamavadia lived, and the radio station was done by non-Jewish people, you're not allowed to listen, of course, in your house, but even in someone else's house. Even if you're just passing by a store, you're not allowed to listen, because this is neheneh b'Melechet Shabbat. These are just other examples of using Melechet Shabbat that somebody else uses. Now, it's important to point out that when we say being neheneh b'Melechet Shabbat, we don't mean only with cooking, we don't mean only with certain melachot. We mean all melachot of Shabbos. Any melacha that a Jewish person did, you're not allowed to have any benefit from that. This way, it will cause him and you, B'ezrat Hashem, to come back and be more careful in the Isurim of Shabbat. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen.